Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today with the first 1 month, one palette video of the year. So I didn't do one for December. I was going to do a recap, and I actually did film that where I went through all the products that I used throughout the year and I was like, what I think about them. But then I sort of realized my thoughts haven't changed on them, and some of them I'm like, I don't even remember if I liked them more than the others. Like, if you wanted to watch my conclusions of each palette, probably watching the videos was better than me stumbling through trying to recap them. Anyway, what I was planning on doing in January, because I was taking a little bit of a break from YouTube, not so much. I did, upload consistently, but when it came to when I was filming, I filmed a whole bunch of declutter videos and then went to Bali for a week, took a bit of a break. So I didn't really want to I didn't want to use one palette all month, which worked out well because most of the month I didn't actually use makeup. It's been really hot. I've been going to the beach a bit, that kind of stuff. So what my idea was to use my travel palette that I really like. I brought this to Japan with me a couple of years ago. I used just this palette for 2 weeks and I really enjoyed it. So I thought, look, I'll bring this to Bali with me and I will take photos of my makeup as I wear this and then sort of recap what I think of it as like a travel palette. What ended up happening was I didn't actually wear eyeshadows in Bali. I wore this palette I think once, maybe twice, and I took one photo. So I decided instead that when I come back, I will use it for quite a few days and let you know what I think of it as a little standalone travel palette. So that's what I'm doing today. So not only is this video different because instead of using a palette for a month, I'm using it for a week, but also I'm not actually going to recreate a look at the end of this. And the only reason for that is that the looks that I'm doing are really, really basic, and I was actually planning on concluding this tomorrow and just taking a photo of this eye look and actually filming this video tomorrow with the look, but my plans have kind of changed, so I'm doing it today. So this is the Tarteist Pro To Go palette by Tarte. Like I said, I've had this for a couple of years. I bought it before going to Japan. I thought I need a little travel palette, and I actually really enjoyed using this in Japan, and it was actually kind of fun sort of rediscovering the looks that I've created with it. So it is a half a matte, half shimmer palette. So you can see this is more of a standard shimmer. There's 3 mattes here and 2 sort of like foiled colors. That's why they're in the circle sort of pans. I'm going to tell you off the bat, the formula of this is actually really nice and easy to use. I have used it with no primer. It sticks on the eye really well. It's quite pigmented. Of course, you get better longevity out of it if you do apply a primer to it. But I found that the only issue I had with the formula of this is it's a little bit powdery, so you can get some fallout. That's with the shimmers and the mattes. If you put a brush in there, it kicks up a little bit of product, and so you just have to be careful that there might be a little bit of fallout. Because it is such a soft formula, you can just sort of brush it away without it sort of sticking to the skin and really discoloring your base. So it's not a big problem. It's just something to be aware of. Like, these are much better to pick up with quite a firm brush, so they don't sort of go everywhere. And it's better probably to start with the mattes, start with a small amount and build up rather than going with a large amount and just blend out. You can still go in with a large amount and blend it out because these blend really, really well. It's just that you're going to get a little bit of fallout issues. So that's pretty much my only issue that I've got with the formula of these. But let's run through the shades. I'm going to swatch them really quickly and then I'll show you the looks that I've been creating with each of these. All right, I've got the washing machine on and it's spinning, but I don't have time to wait. So Drive is like a cool toned beige color. Then we have, do I go down or I'll go down. Then we have Hype, which is just like a soft champagne gold. It's very, very sort of, not bold, but it's quite pigmented. For like a soft sort of shade, it's quite pigmented. We have Stylin, which is a dark brown, and I'll do 3 and then 3. Okay, so let's swatch them. Drive, you can see it's sort of like a cool tone. It's very, very smooth, very pigmented, quite bold for the color and quite nice for a matte, but it's like a cool toned beige color. This isn't a highlight shade for me, but it works really nicely in the crease. If you've got deeper skin, this might be sort of a highlight. I don't know, I think the shade's a little bit off, but it is really practical in the crease. Then we have Hype, which is what I'm wearing on all over my lid today. You can see it's a really nice metallic sort of soft gold. So it's more like a light gold, like a champagne sort of gold, but it's really, really beautiful. Styling is a dark brown. This is, yeah, you can see that it blends really nicely. Like it sort of blends out quite easily, so you can either build it up or sort of soften it down. Then we have Crisp, which is the sort of orangey matte, which is what I've got in the crease today. We have Boss, which is the metallic brown, it's really pretty, and Dominate, which is the metallic sort of cranberry color. So let's swatch those as well. So Crisp, same sort of, there's a little bit of fallout here, so it's a little bit dry, but the formula otherwise is really nice if you can just look past that. Boss is the metallic bronze shade, the brown, which I really, really like. Look at the pigmentation of that. And Dominate is that cranberry color there. So they work really nicely together. You have like a nice mix of mattes and shimmers. You have like deeps and light shades. I would have loved this to be like a cream instead of a beige, but it still works nicely. And you've got a bit of like, the colors work well together, but there's a bit of variation there as well. So those are the colors in the palette. All right, so the first look that I created with this palette was an all matte look. Now this was a pretty basic, boring look. I wasn't actually wearing any eye makeup at the time, and it was getting late and I was like, oh, I should really do this video. So I decided just quickly, and this is over no primer, put Crisp, that brown sort of warm orangey brown in the crease, and then put Drive all over the lid. Now it just created a very warm sort of matte look. Nothing super excited. Oh, car beeping, awesome. Nothing super exciting, but you can kind of see that the mattes do blend quite well. And I didn't hate it. It's just your average warm matte look. But I think what that look kind of shows is that they can hold their own without a primer, and they don't just blend away to nothing. The next look I created was a bit more dramatic. I used this when I was filming beauty news, and I really wanted to use the shade Dominate. One thing I did find about this shade is that you can apply it and it doesn't look super, super bold. Like if you just apply it over a normal primer or a set primer, it does apply nicely and you can see the color there. But if I really wanted to ramp it up, I tried to apply it foiled, like a little bit wet. And you can see that like it did apply, but it wasn't, once again, it wasn't foiled metallic. So even though these are technically metallic formulas, it just looked like a quite intense shimmer. So it was a nice shade. You can actually mix this with a lot of other things. I think in the future, and one thing that I didn't do in this video that I think I probably should have done, and I'm running out of time, so I can't, but one way that I think I want to use this in the future is I actually think that bottom row would be really pretty together. So you have the cranberry color, the warm matte sort of orangey brown, and a pop of this sort of champagne gold. I think they would look really pretty together. This is more of your basic look, so more of your neutral look, that's more of your colors. And I think in rows, they could create quite pretty effects. I only really used the top row together. I didn't actually use the bottom row together, but they would work really well together. In this look as well, you can see that I sort of deepened the outer corner with Styling, so that dark brown. It works really nicely. It works with all the shades in here. So if you need it to deepen the gold or the brown or Dominate or even the mattes, it works well with every shade, which is really, really nice. And then what I just did was I blended it out a little bit with Drive. So I used Drive just to sort of help blend it, and I put that in the crease originally. So that's quite a practical color, just to either set your base or to just use it as a slight transition color. So yeah, they're basic, but they work. So the next look, which is a look I did yesterday, I used this top row. So I used that sort of neutral sort of browny nude row. I used Boss all over the lid, and I also put it on the lower lash line. I deepened it a little bit with Styling, and then I blended it out with Drive. That was a really, really basic brown look. It was very effective. I think, yeah, it's a nice standard look, and I used some brown liner with that one. With the red look that I had before, I used a liquid lipstick for the red liner, if you were wondering. So the look I created today is quite a simple look. I used 2 shades. I use this all over the lid, and then I use crisp in the crease. So I just literally put the gold all over the lid, put in the crease the orange color, and then the lower lash line, the orange color. And that was me recreating probably one of my favorite looks I did when I actually started using this palette when I was in Japan. It was a look that I sort of did a lot. It's really, really quick and easy. It sort of looks quite defined, but nothing complicated. And I really like the combo of those two. And I took one photo when I was in Bali and I used this combination. You can kind of see the look that or the makeup I do when I'm on holidays. It's really, really basic. Once again, it was gold all over the lid. I blended it out with that orange and I put a little bit of the gold in the inner corner. So that's a good indication of the sort of eyeshadow that I would use if I'm on holidays. It's like quick and simple, just a wash of color, not a big deal. And that's sort of 2 ways to use this combo. Okay, so I know that this is a really quick video and the looks I created are just a sort of small demonstration of what you can do with this palette. There are other color combinations that you can use. You can use, you know, the 2 mattes together. You can use the champagne and that light color, which I've done multiple times in the past. You can do these 2 mattes. You can do that color with the orange. You can do that whole row. You can do the gold and the brown. Like, you can do multiple things with it. But the good thing about this palette is the colors do work really, really well together, and I have used this on multiple occasions now where it's just been my exclusive palette, and I have been very happy with it. For such a small palette, you can actually get quite a lot of variety out of it, and this can take you from day to night. So if you just want a simple nude all over the lid color that's like a matte, you can use this. If you want to define your crease a little bit, you can mix it with the brown. If you just want, a champagne all over the lid, I like a bronze all over the lid. So there's different things you can do, or you can elevate it to make it a little bit more nighttime. So if you want a winged liner and you want to go cranberry and brown, or if you want to go gold and brown, or a deeper bronze, you can do that. So the dark shade really does help make this look a little bit more nighttime, and also these metallics do as well. So you can elevate the look, or you can really simplify it like I did when I was in Bali. And I really do like this palette. There are a few things that I'd like to change in it, and one probably being I think this shade I would like it more as a cream, but I still liked this color and I still used it. I don't need a cream for my brow bone highlight when I'm traveling. I don't need a cream to set my base when I'm traveling, but I do like a cream in a palette, but this sort of did work anyway. I do wish that the metallics were a little bit more metallic and bold, because they do take a little bit to build up, and like in that photo that I told you with the cranberry, I did end up applying that with my finger a little bit and also applying it a little bit wet to see how bold it can get. So I do think this is a great little travel palette, and you definitely can use it to create multiple looks and for multiple occasions. It's quick and easy, and all the colors do work really well together. You can pick any 2 or 3 and work them together, and you won't have any problems with clashing of shades. Is this my perfect travel palette? Probably not. Like I said, I'd like to see maybe a cream in there, and personally, for my eye coloring, I'd prefer an olive than a cranberry, but I still think this is a really well performing palette, and whenever I use it for a week or 2 when I'm away, I realize how practical it is. I think the limitations to it are simply that it's quite a warm palette, so those are very warm shades, and if you use any of those, they can make your overall look quite warm, especially that brown, that kind of orangey brown. It really does warm up a look. But I think the only other limitation is the fact that you need to be careful because there's fallout. So as long as you can deal with fallout, these perform really well. On primer, no primer, just a wash of color or built up for a more dramatic look, you can do it with this palette. So I really like this little travel palette. It's my little go-to travel palette. And yeah, I dig it. So the last thing I thought I should do is introduce the palette that I will be focusing on in February. I think I did this last year as well. I picked a big palette for February, which is a shorter month. Why do I do that to myself? But I'm doing it. So I recently bought a new Morphe palette. I have not used it. So this is the Morphe 35M Boss Mood palette. And I mainly picked it up because I really like the greens in this. These sort of yellowy, brownie greens are my jam. And I thought, look, I'm placing an order for Morphe, so I may as well pick this up as well. So I have not even touched this. I'll show it to you. It's untouched, unswatched. So there we go. Those are the shades there. So what I'm doing in February is I'm planning on using every single shade, documenting some of the looks I create, and then I'll come back in a month's time and I'll let you know what I think of the palette overall, and show you the looks that I use to create these. Now, look, it is a bit of an effort trying to use 35 shades in 1 month, but I figure if I use, 3 shades a day, I should be able to easily get through all of them and get a good idea of what I think about this palette. It's always a bit of a risk doing a 1 month, one palette on a brand new palette that you haven't tried before, because if you really hate the quality, you're sort of stuck with it and you're begrudgingly having to use it. But I'm hoping, I've used Morphe palettes before, I'm hoping this one's not too bad, but I really particularly like the color variation in this palette, so I thought, I want to use it. That's what I want to use in February. So we'll be back to normal programming of this sort of series in February. January and December are a bit funny, but it is what it is. So yeah, sorry that was quick and brief, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.